Welcome to this week's edition of Rugby Unfiltered. I'm your host, Jan de Koning. And as usual, the very knowledgeable Eugene Eloff. Loffie, welcome.
Hi, Jan. Thanks, man. Great to be back. And also great to have my friend and ex-team doctor, Dr. Pierre Vivier here. You know, he's got so much knowledge on the game. And it's a good time to bring him in as well after a lot of controversial decisions on the field and cards. And then, so it's great to be back. Doki, welcome.
Thanks, Lofi. It's always a pleasure joining the platform with you and Jan.
Doc, if we can start, let's look back at last night's SA under-20 versus England under-20 game. It was such a brutal game, but apart from the brutality, on 32 minutes, the game changed dramatically when that England flank headbutted the South African player, an immediate red card, and the dynamics of the game changed. And we saw there were 20, in an 8-minute period, the Baby Box scored 21 points. But I want to ask you, I mean, you deal with this a lot, and I understand that you can't speak specifics, but what happens in a game that a player, let's call it for lack of a better word, the red mist descends, and he does something unthinkable like that?
Thank you, Jan. I think it's very interesting, and it's an interesting discussion. First of all, we were in the 10 minutes just before halftime. As you've mentioned, it was a hard match, and the two sides were extremely physical. So I think first of all, the player definitely must have been fatigued. Now we know also at the age of these players, there's still brain development that have to take place. The frontal lobe, where your decision making is actually housed in the brain, is not fully developed. Things like fatigue in this instance, alcohol in the normal sense. Then there's certain drugs which we also dealt with it with a situation here. I would say that happens. That's that thing where we sit and watch a match, and you see a player do something completely different than what was in the game plan, or the instructions, and that's all fatigue that crept in, and especially in that conditions. It's also very hot conditions, as you would witness the water breaks in between. So yeah, lots of factors that could have influenced that decision making of the player at that moment. But that, I think, is the best example that we can see what World Rugby try to prevent, because that is where we have all these serious injuries. We try to avoid head contact, and that is the seriousness of this injury for me. And I know Lofi from a rugby side, with his expertise, will have more to add. But that from a medical side, I think I completely support the decision. And I might just add something in, and that is that I've seen in the media, everyone want to bury this guy and want to get him off the circuit. Let's remember he's still growing, and I think there might be rehabilitation, chances for good rehabilitation. So it's still a young player. Many young people make these mistakes on different areas of life, but I think we need to support him in a rehabilitation program in terms of this decision making. That would be all from me, Jan.
Yeah, Doki, I'm going to support you. You said one very important thing, fatigue. That's why a lot of coaches, we coach the teams, we fatigue them, and then we let them make decisions, because that's usually when the silly or the wrong decisions are made.
Yeah.
And as you rightfully, and I didn't think about it that much, but now it's just the light went on. I mean, that's where they had the water breaks. It was humid. The humidity was very high.
Yeah.
And in the spur of the moment, and I'm also glad you're saying that you don't bury him. That youngster is going to remember that headbutt for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
And he's going to feel guilty that he cost him the game. That's not a thing that a coach can do anything about, and I'm sure they already had their review of the game. And regardless, red card or not, I don't think England, who were playing very well till at that stage, had the firepower to beat a young Springbok side who I think can go all the way. And we'll talk about that later. But I agree with you very much. And I hope they look after the player in terms of his mental capacity after this incident. Because if they don't, he's gone. And then from a coaching point of view, Jan and Docky, you just get these players, and I won't mention them, they just flip out when the switch goes off. They do silly things. And when you do a review, they just say, Coach, I don't know what happened. At that moment, I just lost it. I can't even remember that I hit the guy with my head or I gave him a clap or whatever. So that's part of the physical part of rugby. And as Doc also said, that's what we want to prevent, everything away from the head.
Mm.
Eugene, I want to take, we don't want to belabor the point, and I think Doc is right. It is a young player. But let's look at, I mean, there was a great game for the Baby Box. Yes, we had our momentary lapses. We started a bit slow, but we're in the final. We're playing France in the final. So, and not having watched all the games, I don't actually know much about finals. So maybe Eugene and Doc, even if you guys have been watching these under 20 tournament, I mean, what sort of French team is this? They beat New Zealand, so they can't be a bad team.
Yeah, Jan, I watched the games. I think New Zealand, there's one thing about rugby. You have to play for 80 minutes. You cannot take your foot off the pedal the last 5-10 minutes. So basically, the French, New Zealand was winning the game. And the French, on the last minute, started running from their own, I think it was 2 or 3 minutes left, 22, and they scored the winning try. And those New Zealanders will be hurting. Going into a final against a side from France, and Doc will tell you, we had the experience in France itself, but not in the final. You don't know who's going to pitch up on the day. I don't think this French side have got, again, and I'm saying it subjectively, they don't have the firepower to stand for our team. I think we're not going to cruise into it. One thing that Footy and Bond know, it's a final. It's a different game. It's not about flair and all this monkey tricks or funny, interaction, interplays you do. It's about doing the basics well, defending well, and using the opportunities well. There's not a lot in the final that comes. And if the game is going to go loose and open up, the French will be in it. But if we control it, the tempo and the ball, we should win it. And we're so proud to have a team having back-to-back opportunities to win a World Cup again.
Maybe also, if I can just comment on the time that you have to play the whole time. Lofi and I, you mentioned it now, when we played in France, we played in a 35-minute match. We played for 45 minutes. And that was the rolling subs and everything. So the French referee just didn't want to stop the match. It was the semi-final in the 2003 Baby Box game. And we just have to clung on a 4-point margin. And the French were playing from all sides. So just to confirm, even if you go beyond the 80 minutes, you still have to play, even if you're in front, But that's the one thing. And then the other thing is, I think what impresses me again, Jan, from a physical point, is this Bok team, and you've mentioned that controlling the tempo. From a physiological point, I was waiting for the dam wall to break. Although we were behind on points, we were still in control in that game. But the ability of this Bok team to attack from back to back, it's phenomenal. And there's nothing that take the power out of you. I mean, if you look at the size of the players and everything, I thought, it's not going to work. But physiologically, they are so well conditioned that they can play that quick game and still make the right decisions. Again, they postpone their fatigueness and making bad decisions. So I think that is crucial for the match on Saturday.
Jan, before you take us to the next, Doc just reminded me sitting here now of that game against France. There was a lot of factors. First of all, our bus driver got lost. I don't know if Doc, if you can remember that. When we got to the field, we had a few minutes to warm up, but this incident, we were ahead 25 when the time was done, and then they scored twice. So that I think all my hair fell out on that day.
Yeah, Doc, I want to move on to Rassie just now, but I want to ask you quickly the other factor which we don't always take into consideration. These guys play 3 massive games 5 days apart. It's not
Yeah.
like now they're playing 4 games, a fourth game in this. So the final, the semi-final, they had 3 pool matches. They have a semi-final and a final. That's 5 games, 5 days apart. I mean, at some stage that must catch up, even at that young age.
Yeah, so for sure. So just that body heat also bring fatigue, the human humidity. And Lofi will also confirm that the first year we played we lost the semi-final against France in Durban, and we were too reluctant to really take into acknowledge the humidity, the temperature, and all that. So saying that, so this next year we were creamed all the teams, and people mentioned how good the Baby Bok team look, and that at that stage, Lofi, it was 4 days between the matches. So what we did in that competition, and I can assure you, I know the Baby Bok conditioning team. They are very, very highly rated, and they are actually guys that already served on the top level. So they are prepared for this, and they condition the players to that. They condition the players to react quickly. So, for instance, what we did is, I can still remember the matches in France. Is just before the final. I mean, even before the matches, we take a full day off, have a walkthrough session, and have a captain's run and play. So the time is really just, Lofi and the team will come in and just do small corrections. And we were like demons on their shoulders if they start running too much. And we were timing the sessions. And I can guarantee you that's the same with that team at the moment. You could see the freshness in them comparing to the English also. And that is what's going to count. And I mean, before the final in France, we even didn't go to the field for a field session because we didn't want to let the players drive 2 hours in a city in a bus. So we did a walkthrough in the hotel garden. So that's the type of thing that pull that last 10, 15 minutes sparkle out of you. And that's just physiological. That's not, it's you just have to go and sit and think and plan. And I can assure you this Bok support team, the strength and conditioning team are really some of the best guys that we have on the circuit.
Well,
Yes,
that's
Jan. I think
yes.
I just want to add, because as Doki, it's an important discussion, and it is the final we're going to play. I think the medical team plays a big role between these games to say the intensity of training, how much training, and so forth. The trick is to have your guys fresh with the next game, and it's really a trick. The medical team. That's why I used to let them go do shopping before the tournament starts, because once it starts, it's busy. And it's really, and then I sent Baron Peters a message earlier today for Women Footy saying, well done. It's just another game. Don't make it bigger than it is. And they know it as well. They've played in finals already. And again, the same the recipe that worked up until now, they will use going into the final, just being more accurate. And I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I agree.
Guys, okay, let's quickly move on to South Africa, Wales. We've got a senior Springbok team. Rassie named this team. Eugene, I want to talk to you. I mean, you were as a former Baby Bok coach. You used to see these youngster players. I mean, we've got a fly half there that can probably still play under 20. We've got a wing that's just a year out of under 20. What do you think is the greatest part of this game of Rassie's rotation system that's winning him over, winning while still rotating and getting these youngsters into the system?
Deshan, if you go look at the teams that he picked, there was a good balance of senior players that had quite a few tests under the belt, and the newbies. So what I like about what he's doing is bringing these guys in with senior players around them. And he's actually giving a lot of belief into these players. Vusi can still play under 20, The 120 fly was doing just as well that side. And Williams the wing, so and if you listen to Steve Hansen, what he had to say, and Steve was usually not very complimentary of our system stuff, but now he's complimenting it and saying, listen, what we're doing is right. We're blooding the young players into wing, and we're releasing them in games that is not high risk. Now anybody will tell you, listen, you tell me what test rugby is not high risk. But we have to be honest, guys. It's you have to compare apples with apples. And Wales are busy rebuilding, and this is the perfect game to blood a few young players and bring a few older players that come back from injury into the team. So I like the mix of the team, Jan.
Lofi, can I maybe just add something add in? So I'm completely agree, and I think the other thing that I picked up is also from a physiological point of view. He picked the combinations, also the way he want to play against that opponent on that specific Saturday. So he will have his solid structures that where the experienced guys are, and then he bring the other in where he knows. And if you want to play open and running rugby, less contact, he will pick that youngsters. And if you want to play direct, hard, like against the English, he will only pick certain guys. So I think that's the other thing that also amazed me, is to look more from a point of view as how he rest players, or not rest, but bring new players in and have that combinations.
Yeah, I think just quickly from our side, the important thing is that you got Vusi Moyo there at fly off. It's a youngster, and we know that he's got a lot of development to do. But inside of him, you've got Kobus Reinach. On outside of him, you've got Damien de Allende. I mean, those are double World Cup winners that can take this youngster and guide him through that system. On the wing, the same thing. You got Fassi. He's not an established Springbok, but he's a senior player, and he plays with the little wing at the Sharks. So he played with him. He's not at the moment, but he played with him. So he knows this kid. They will know each other, so they'll understand each other. They trained a lot together. And just outside of that wing, you've got Jesse Kriel. And again, you've got these two seniors that can guide this youngster through. And obviously, in the forwards, you've got the lock that gets his debut at 28. Although that's probably in South Africa, if your name is Dion Fourie or Dion Lotte, or then 28 to make your debut is very young.
Yeah. Lofi, and like, you don't want to play a test debutant against Van Russell, and the way they attack. But that was for me a perfect selection of bringing Pollard and the two centers with him, and the scrum half was very solid. And we know that is how they tried to outplay us, but luckily it worked well out for us.
Lofi, I want to ask you something very quickly about Doc mentioned Pollard now. Rassie has been, you just said it this after the game as well. Pollard's been training at number 12 for 4 weeks already. And he was always planning to move into 12. He's now busy moving Pollard because he's got fly-offs like Sasha, like Lebok, and Damien Willems that can also still play fly-off. He's using Pollard as that banker off the bench. He can come in at inside center and at fly-off, or even at fullback if he needs to be, if he needs that calmness. Is that not part of why the Springboks are currently so many steps ahead? Is that thinking of Rassie, or planning ahead, way ahead of the rest?
Jana, is a simple solution. He's tactically outsmarting the guys, and we can do a 6-2 bench, because your 9 can play 3 positions and your outside back can play 3 positions, or 4 positions, which means that you can have an extra forward in the pack. And with the impact of the game and the high contact resolution and stuff, you need forwards. And then you, of course, still within that, you also have your hybrid that can play in front and at the back. So I think tactically we're just outsmarting the people, and we're fortunate. I want to go back to that game of Scotland. I know we're not going to discuss it, but the Scots brought it to us. And the one lesson I've learned from that is that statistics don't win a game. If you go look at their statistics, their possession, their field position, everything, the Scots should have won that game. but they couldn't finish. Where when we got in the red zone, scored points at vital times. And I think the Scots are busy growing, and it was not a fluke that they beat Argentina in Argentina. And to me, that's exciting that we need that sort of competition. And well done to the Scots that brought us to us. It's going to be interesting to see if Wales can maybe get a bit of courage out of this and bring a similar sort of attack. Not standing back and not waiting for our mauls to fall in place and our direct runners to run up, and maybe them get more position and run at us. So that's what makes this competition so lekker, man.
Yeah. Eugene, I think we chat so lekker, and maybe I don't want to waste Doc's time, because I did promise the viewers that we're going to give him to explain Box Smart. I'm sure there's lots else that we can, so we'll probably have Doc on again. But Doc, maybe if we can just, I mean, you're very heavily involved with this, and we discussed the head knocks and stuff earlier briefly. But can you explain to us exactly what is Box Smart? Because we're all here, and they keep saying you can't coach if you're not Box Smart. You can't do this, referee. You can't do that if you. What is Box Smart, and what does it look at?
Well, it's really a highly intensive rugby safety program that's been developed in South Africa. So we didn't buy it from any other nation. So that's about 20 years ago. I think Boxmart is now in its 8th or 9th version. So every second year there's a review, and there's been changes. But this is an ideal program for players, and then for the rugby officials, coaches, and referees to work through. And why is it important that we say you need to have Boxmart to coach? This is not for the coaches like Lofi, or that is where they begin. This is not for the advanced and elite coaches. I mean, you can always learn from certain aspects, but these coaches are on a highly developed program, and they continue to have medical teams supporting them and all that. This is for the referee and the coach that coach a club or a school team where you don't have all the support systems that you have to know what is rugby, what is the dangers of rugby, how can we prevent injuries. And this is what this program is about, is basic information about conditioning, basic information about tackling and the different ways to tackle, different ways to pass. So I must say, I mean, I'm involved in many of the work that's been done, and we are various experts through South Africa that advise on that program. But I must say that Dr. Wayne Viljoen and Clint Redhead really pushed to get this implemented, and I think that's really a game changer. So if you look at the statistics, because this program is not just about what is available in other countries, so we use all the data that's been produced through this system, and various universities take part in different research projects to evaluate, reevaluate, and see. But is that working that we implement? And you can see that in certain instances how injury incidences came down. Where's the problematic areas? If you just look at the scrum and the amount of scrum injuries that we have, and usually through this we can also advise World Rugby in their scientific systems to look at certain aspects. So that's Boxmart, and there I cannot make a more heartfelt plea that people that's involved in rugby must go and work through this, and it's free. People can access the South African Rugby website, and it's available. Obviously, when you want to be accredited, there's a practical part that you need to do, but a lot of the information is actually, that is where you need to get that information.
So in brief, you can do an online course and then go qualify, do your practical exam.
Yes.
Jan, if I can just come on here, it's you don't have a choice. If you want to coach in our country, you have to do Boxmart.
Yeah, for coaches, definitely. Yeah.
So and I'll tell you one of the big things, if I can mention it, if there are legal implications.
Yeah.
somebody gets injured and the coach is not qualified or whoever, then it becomes a tough battle. So, I think we're far ahead, Docky, you're right. And the rest of the world will still latch on to this. How important is, especially at your youth and junior systems where the coaches start, that they know what tools to use, how to make decisions, what decisions they have to make, and so on. It's a great course to do. And I think just for anybody that maybe is not fond of it, just go do it.
But Lofi, that what is important, and I think, Jan, that is where we sort of, I would say, lead the rest of the world, is the South African context. So by us, there's schools that play in areas where the closest hospital is 8 hours from them, or the basic there's no gyms available. So we must, and the way this program is developed is really to be able for a school that's out in Namakwaland North, where there's no grass on the field, is to appropriately the coach to appropriately prepare his players and in a safe way. So that's the big thing, and I think that's where the big difference between us and other injury prevention programs in the global north is that we are really, the BoxSmart program is applicable to South Africa.
Docky, you just gave me an idea as a coach. So if you coach up there on these gravel fields, you just teach them, don't go to the ground. Stay on your feet.
Stay on your feet. Which was a big problem for us years ago. We also want to, and that's when the New Zealanders would stay on their feet, and that's where they beat us.
Well, Doc, thank you very much. I'm sure we are. I think we'll talk offline, and then we'll set up another meeting maybe next week, and we address the safety aspects. I mean, it's really interesting. And I still think that if there's questions, maybe we have a question and answer session somewhere down the line. Maybe a live question and answer session. I'll investigate that. But I think I really wanted to thank you for informing us. I mean, even myself, who's been in the game 45 years as a journalist, I don't actually know how BoxSmart. I hear it all the time, and maybe there is an educational aspect to this that maybe Saru can bring in and or inform us mere mortals about what they're actually doing. So I want to thank you very much for once again coming on the podcast. And Lofi, I mean, your insights as well. I mean, it's really great to chat rugby, and you're right. We got to have topics like this, which is important, not necessarily what the masses want to hear, but it's important topics that needs to be discussed.
Yes, Jan. I think what we should do is for our next session, we go to Rivière Castile, and we go sit there and we do a live recording with Docky there, with a glass of wine.
That would be great. Yeah, that will be a great. That will be great. You're more than welcome. But thanks, Jan and Lofi. Also, it's always great to share the floor, and just think over so many years, there's still some of the philosophies that we used from both sides, you and myself, to put that together and to win the World Cups and to be competitive on the world stage with the juniors, where we have much less actually support, if you can put it that way, or infrastructure than these days.
Well, Doc, Lofi, thank you very much. I think that's a good note to end it on, and then we'll chat next week. From myself, Jan de Koning.
Cheers, man.
Cheers, Jan. Thanks, Lofi. Have a good evening.
Cheers,
Till next week. Enjoy your rugby.